Hi, welcome everybody. Michelle B here. I'm down on the mats because we are going to do some basics of Pilates and how I'm going to bring that into the high intensity interval training. But I really need you to know how the inner workings of the deep core muscles work and how to use proper form to protect your low back and to really activate the deep transverse abdominis. So I know I have another deep core video on this, but it's part of the name. Mind core is the focus on the core. So I'm going to always harp on these deep transverse abdominis muscles. So the transverse abdominis is one that starts in the spine and it wraps around us like this, and it's that drawing in. And I'm gonna come up just this far. It's the muscle that pulls us in. We're gonna play with that. All the other abdominal muscles, this is kind of not considered the same type of movement as the abdominal muscles. The rectus abdominis that runs along the front, our six pack, is a flexor. It's the one that does the crunches. But the transverse is the one that protects, holds the intestines in place, actually aids in digestion, allows and helps breathing for proper breath and health. And so it's really important that that one is addressed. And unfortunately, in American culture, it really isn't that much. For women that have been pregnant or birth babies in other cultures, they're actually told to activate that transverse abdominis within an hour after birthing. And I can tell you, I only learned that by like my third child. So, or maybe I knew that the second or first. But anyhow, every other culture, it teaches us to be mindful of the pelvic floor and the transverse. And so for us Americans who just let that all stretch and haven't activated that since, and even if you haven't had babies, I honestly have had male clients who have diastasis, which is a kind of a pulling away of the rectus abdominis because their belly got so big and it still tore. So the transverse abdominis is what helps with that, with the diastasis, which is a kind of a separating of the rectus abdominis. And so we're going to come down. Let me get us some background music, but we don't need seconds timer this time. And we're going to come down to your back with your knees bent. Good. And I really want you to get the feet right about a foot's distance away from the hips. Make sure your neck is nice and long. Spine is nice and long and long and long. And then you're going to check in with these 4 points. There is another video on deep core where I mentioned the 4 points. And so I want you to pretend, I'm going to turn down my music a tiny bit, that there's a string wrapped around your belly button and it's being drawn back towards your spine, towards the floor, and that would be your 12 o'clock. And then there is where your pelvis, sacrum here, touches the floor, that would be your 6 o'clock. And then there's a 3 and 9 on these two bones, like the two bones opposite of this. It's the other side of this bone here. And that's your 3 and 9. And I want you to figure out how to get all 4 of those into the mat. And usually, we need to kind of press into the heels and rotate that pelvis under. So usually a lot of the time it's this 12 o'clock that's going to be off. And that's the one that I want you to roll in to the mat. Good. And then I want to see if you notice these muscles right here kind of activate when you do that. If you were to let go again and then try to come back into that position, it activates these muscles down in here. That's the transverse abdominis. Good. I want you to see if you can hold this position and then focus on whether you can breathe into the ribs still. So my lower abdominals are active by pressing those 4 points down actively into the mat, and my breathing is still happening. Obviously I'm talking into my rib cage. Good, and then let that all go for a second. Take a deep breath into the belly and then activate it again. This time we're going to hold for 6 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let that release, even though it's kind of gone in proper form. And then draw it back in, 6 seconds. Make sure you're really pressing into the floor. 2, 1, let it go. We're going to do 6 of these. So we're at 2, draw that back in. 3, 4, 5, 6, and release it. When you do, make sure you take a deep breath into those muscles, letting that expand. And draw it back in. This is 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let it release. 2 more. 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release. Last one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Let it release. And so now we're going to come into some minute, tiny movements. I'm going to make sure you hear me. Where we're going to make sure that that alignment stays. This is our focus. Before we get into any type of Pilates exercise, we want to make sure that you can keep the awareness of these 4 points. In time, I want you to have awareness of these 4 points when you're standing, when you're sitting in your car, when you're sitting at your desk, when you're walking your dog. I want you to have awareness of these being in alignment and that transverse having the ability to activate. Now, a really important part of having a strong abdominal core is the ability to also let it stretch and release, which is that inhale breath. Ladies, let that belly expand. Otherwise, you never get the full range of motion of the muscles, so you never get the full active contraction. You can't do your before and after photo if you can't get full contraction of that muscle. So, keeping awareness of those 4 points. Now I just want you to feel what it's like. You're going to put pressure into the right heel and lift off that hip at 3 o'clock, and then back down. On the other side, there's small movements, but I want you to feel if there's any difference from side to side. If one doesn't move, if one of them has to lift everything else off, then you know something's stuck or out of alignment. And this is actually a way to find that out and sometimes correct it by gently easing the muscles into a better situation. Good, keeping that transverse active and the neck nice and long and relaxed. 2 more. Good, letting that down, letting it all go for a few seconds. Good, with traditional Pilates, breathing in yoga is really, breathing's a big part of it. So we do want to start learning how to breathe with active abdominals, because when you take into the interval training, I really want to make sure your abs are active and you can still get healthy breathing for oxygenation of your muscles and everything. So 4 points activated again, transverse in. You're going to gently lift the right foot, lifting the knee towards the sky and the foot comes off very slowly, because I want you to feel how that weight shifts. You have the 4 points in, and then you challenge that. What happens? Do you roll? Are you able to hold it? Do things have to adjust? Just feel that. Very, very, very slowly. And other side, very slowly. Can you hold these 4 points? I think mine actually shifted there, right? Good, other side, right side again. Lift it a little higher. Now let's see how far we can go before things, curl under or change. Really just getting this awareness in your body, because you want to know when you get away from this safe position. So if you take it to other exercises, like I'm going to really bash traditional fitness in one of my videos. I want you to have this awareness of what happens with small movements, so you can notice if you are coming away from this position on large movements. Good, and down. Let this all relax. Breathe. Good. Get that alignment back. I'm going to start with the right foot here like we have been. And now it's going to do a little circle. So I'm going to make sure I'm moving in my pants here. It's going to have a little circle and then see how that challenges things. Can you still press? Getting rotation in that hip. Last one. And bringing it back down. Take a breath. Activate it all back in. Lift that left side. And one side will be different than the other. I totally feel this side different. Good, but you get your bearings. And you make sure you're pressing. So this is using some really deep intrinsic core muscles to keep your spine where it needs to be in movement. It's using spinal erectae muscles, muscles that support the spine. And down. Breathe. Good. And if you have, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, if you have a small box, stool, my stool used to be here, just even a little book or anything, we're just going to test what happens with the pelvis here. So, and while you're doing Pilates, I want you not to just let go like that and let your abs go down. I want you to come down gently with awareness of that low back. So heels into the stool box, stairs, book, and I want you to find that 4 points. And then I want you to feel this curling and see if things get tighter in there, things get more contracted. I'm going to make you curl back down slowly, like one vertebra at a time is coming down. And then curl it under, nice long, long, long neck. Get my hands out of your view. And curl it down. Take a breath here. If you're doing this correctly, you should start feeling some kind of deep contraction burning. So everything draws back in, curl under one vertebra at a time. For you, you can just have your hands here, but since I keep demonstrating things, and then curl back down. Along with that, making sure arms are open, shoulders are open, heart is open. Good, and this last one, we're going to curl and then take it into a lift. Curl and lift. Two more. Make sure your box is dirty. Mine just slid a little, but it's okay. Good, coming back off that, let things relax. So let that breathing. And we're gonna check in. Get back into that positioning. What happens, the nice long spine, what happens when you move your arms away from that core? So bringing your arms just straight out and then making sure this all stays active. See how far you can come without counteracting any of that. Nice long neck, nice strong core, and making sure ribs don't pop out. If ribs pop out, you're at your max. Anything else is just compromising form. Sorry, fuzz from my sweatshirt. So coming back to here, just coming back as far as you can maintain. See my shoulders kind of crunching? That's going to be my max. As you work with it, you may start to ease off some. It's like some of these exercises are like self-adjustment because you're forcing your body into the proper alignment. Not really forcing, you're allowing. Just bring the palms facing each other
And see how that changes things. If you're curious, my toes, I sometimes have them pulled up just because it's a more active foot and more active pressing into the lower abdomen. So if you open your hands wider and see if you can come a little further. Okay, take a little breath here, let this go. Good, bring it back in. See if this is available without that. Really listen to your body. I'm not watching you. So if this is your max before something goes here, then that's your max and work at it. Work at that edge. Don't push yourself further than what will keep you in proper alignment. If you have that much ego that you can't go to your max by yourself, no watching, then you might want to do some coaching with me. Good, let's see what happens when we circle. Combine those movements. Nope, did you see my ribs gave in? Don't do that. Or if you do, have the awareness. There's my max. Opposite direction. Good. Okay. And let it all breathe. Last movement. Activate it all in. Get those points in alignment. Get those pelvis and heels pressing down into the mat. When we take it into abdominal exercises, it is as though there was an apple or orange between your chest and chin, and I want the tongue to the roof of your mouth. It's just how it changes hyoid muscles in the neck and how it helps with how we're using our neck. And I always want you to be bringing the weight of the head up over the body. So it's never hanging out here straining these muscles. I never want that. It's in here. So the curl comes from the transverse activating. That's a massive movement right there if you're using proper form. You'll see from other videos, I do prefer abdominal movements. Exhale, yep. To be on the ball. Because for full range of motion of the rectus abdominis, you need 30 degrees past, neutral, and 45 degrees in the curl, and you can't get that on a flat floor. You can't get the 30-degree extension in the spine. So, just learning how to lift with this over here, not out here. If that's too much, and we keep working, just can you lift the head? I actually have beginners really hang on to their thighs, and this is, after babies, I did this every single time, getting things back. I used this aid support, so I would really pull with my arms to be able to get that way. Taking a breath, and there we go. Taking all this information, and we will have further videos with Pilates in an interval training situation. So, have a blessed day.